What if I told you that the biggest battle in your life is not happening around you? It's happening inside your mind. Every day, difficult times test us. They challenge our confidence, our patience, and sometimes even our belief in ourselves. Most people think winners are the ones who never struggle. But that's not true. The real winners are the people who train their minds to stay focused when everything feels uncertain. They learn how to keep moving forward when others give up, because success is not about avoiding hard times. It's about developing a mindset that becomes stronger because of them. So today, let's talk about how to train your mind to win in difficult times, overcome self-doubt, and build the mental strength that separates those who quit from those who succeed. Most people believe that difficult times become painful because of the problems themselves. But in reality, much of the suffering comes from our refusal to accept what is happening. We spend countless hours wishing things were different, replaying events in our minds, asking why something happened, or imagining how life should have unfolded. The more we fight reality, the more exhausted we become. Acceptance is not about giving up. It is about seeing the truth clearly so that we can respond to it with strength and wisdom. Think about the moments in your life when things did not go according to plan. Maybe you lost an opportunity you worked hard for. Maybe a relationship ended unexpectedly. Maybe you faced financial struggles, health challenges, or setbacks that seemed unfair. The first reaction for many people is resistance. They tell themselves, this should not be happening. They become trapped in frustration because they are focused on the gap between reality and their expectations. That gap creates stress, anger, disappointment, and fear. When you accept reality, you stop wasting energy fighting facts that cannot be changed. You recognize the situation for what it is instead of what you wish it were. This shift may seem simple, but it changes everything. The moment you accept a challenge, you place yourself in a position to deal with it effectively. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what can I do next? That question moves you from victimhood to responsibility. Acceptance requires courage because it forces you to confront uncomfortable truths. It means acknowledging mistakes when they occur. It means admitting when a plan has failed. It means recognizing limitations, obstacles, and circumstances that may not be under your control. Many people avoid acceptance because they think it will make them weak. They fear that accepting reality means surrendering. The opposite is true. Refusing to accept reality makes you powerless because you are fighting a battle against facts. Acceptance gives you power because it allows you to focus on actions that can actually make a difference. Imagine a sailor caught in a storm. The sailor cannot stop the wind, control the waves, or change the weather. If the sailor spends time complaining about the storm, nothing improves. The storm continues regardless of personal opinions or emotions. A skilled sailor accepts the conditions immediately and adjusts the sails accordingly. The weather may still be difficult, but acceptance allows effective action. Life works the same way. There will always be storms. The people who move forward are the ones who learn to work with reality instead of fighting against it. One of the greatest advantages of acceptance is mental clarity. When emotions take over, our judgment becomes clouded. Fear exaggerates problems. Anger creates impulsive decisions. Denial prevents us from seeing opportunities. Acceptance clears away emotional noise and helps us focus on what truly matters. It allows us to assess situations objectively and make better choices. A calm mind is far more effective than a reactive one. Many successful people understand this principle deeply. They do not waste time wishing circumstances were easier. They understand that reality is the starting point of every solution. Whether facing business failures, personal setbacks, or unexpected obstacles, they begin by accepting the facts. They understand that progress starts with honesty. You cannot solve a problem you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot improve a situation you pretend does not exist. Acceptance also helps build resilience. Every challenge contains lessons, but those lessons often remain hidden until we stop resisting reality. When we accept difficult experiences, we become open to learning from them. We begin to ask better questions. We look for growth instead of blame. We search for solutions instead of excuses. Over time, this mindset strengthens our ability to handle adversity. Challenges no longer feel like personal attacks. They become opportunities to develop patience, wisdom, and character. Another important aspect of acceptance is understanding the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy worrying about things beyond their influence. They worry about other people's opinions, past mistakes, future uncertainties, and circumstances they cannot change. This creates unnecessary stress and anxiety. Acceptance helps you let go of what is outside your control and focus on what is within it. Your attitude, effort, decisions, and responses remain under your control regardless of external circumstances. Life becomes lighter when you stop carrying the burden of resisting reality. You begin to see challenges more clearly. You conserve energy that was previously wasted on frustration and denial. You become more adaptable, more focused, and more capable of making meaningful progress. Acceptance does not eliminate difficulties, but it changes your relationship with them. Instead of feeling trapped by circumstances, you begin to navigate them with confidence and purpose. Every moment presents a choice. You can argue with reality, wishing it were different, or you can accept it and move forward. One path leads to frustration and stagnation. The other leads to growth and action. Reality does not change because we resist it. It changes when we accept it, understand it, and take deliberate steps toward improvement. The strongest people are not those who avoid hardship. They are the ones who face the truth directly, embrace it fully, and use it as the foundation for their next move. Your mind is the most powerful tool you will ever possess. It can become your greatest ally or your biggest obstacle. Every action you take begins with a thought. Every decision, every habit, every achievement, and every failure is influenced by what is happening inside your mind. When life becomes difficult, the quality of your thoughts often determines the quality of your response. This is why learning to control your thoughts is one of the most important skills you can develop. Many people assume that thoughts simply happen to them. They believe they have no control over what enters their minds. While it is true that thoughts appear automatically, you always have a choice about which thoughts you focus on, which thoughts you believe, and which thoughts you allow to influence your actions. The problem is that most people never learn this distinction. They treat every negative thought as if it were a fact. They allow fear, doubt, and worry to take control without questioning them. Imagine waking up in the morning and immediately thinking, "Today is going to be terrible." That single thought begins to shape your attitude. You become more sensitive to problems. Small inconveniences feel larger than they really are. You notice obstacles more than opportunities. By the end of the day, you may convince yourself that your negative prediction was correct. In reality, your mindset influenced the way you interpreted events throughout the day. The same principle works in the opposite direction. If you train yourself to think constructively, you become better equipped to handle challenges. This does not mean pretending that problems do not exist. It means choosing thoughts that help you move forward instead of thoughts that hold you back. Constructive thinking creates confidence, motivation, and resilience. Destructive thinking creates fear, hesitation, and self-doubt. One of the biggest mental traps people fall into is assuming that their current situation will last forever. When they face a setback, they begin telling themselves stories like, "I will never succeed," "things will never improve," or "I am not good enough." These thoughts may feel real, but they are often exaggerated assumptions rather than facts. The mind has a tendency to magnify problems when emotions are running high. A temporary difficulty starts to feel permanent. A single mistake starts to define an entire identity. Controlling your thoughts begins with awareness. You cannot change a thought pattern that you do not recognize. Many people spend years repeating negative mental habits without realizing it. They criticize themselves constantly. They focus on worst-case scenarios. They compare themselves to others. They replay failures repeatedly. These patterns become so familiar that they feel normal. The first step toward change is noticing these thoughts as they occur. When a negative thought appears, pause and examine it. Ask yourself whether it is actually true. Ask yourself whether it is helping you. Ask yourself whether there is another way to view the situation. Often, you will discover that your mind is creating unnecessary fear or negativity. But the goal is not to eliminate every negative thought. The goal is to prevent negative thoughts from controlling your actions. Consider an athlete preparing for an important competition. If that athlete constantly thinks, "I am going to fail," performance will likely suffer, confidence decreases, focus disappears, anxiety increases. On the other hand, if the athlete thinks, "I have prepared for this, and I will give my best effort," performance improves because the mind is supporting success instead of sabotaging it. The external challenge remains the same, but the internal dialogue changes everything. Your thoughts also influence the way you interpret setbacks. Two people can experience the exact same failure and respond completely differently. One person may see the setback as proof of inadequacy. The other may view it as feedback and an opportunity to improve. The event itself is identical, but their thinking creates different outcomes. The person with a growth-oriented mindset learns, adapts, and continues moving forward. Fear is another area where thought control becomes essential. Fear often begins with imagined scenarios rather than actual dangers. The mind starts predicting negative outcomes before they happen. It creates stories about failure, rejection, embarrassment, or loss. The more attention these stories receive, the more powerful they become. Eventually, fear can prevent action entirely. Learning to challenge fearful thoughts helps reduce their influence. Instead of asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" ask, "What if I am capable of handling whatever happens?" The thoughts you repeat most often eventually shape your beliefs. Beliefs influence behavior, and behavior creates results. This means that your future is heavily influenced by the conversations taking place inside your mind today. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are incapable, you will act accordingly. If you repeatedly remind yourself that growth is possible, your actions will begin reflecting that belief. Mental discipline requires practice. Just as physical strength develops through consistent training, mental strength develops through repeated effort. Every time you redirect a negative thought toward a productive one, you strengthen your ability to control your mindset. Every time you challenge self-doubt, instead of accepting it, you build confidence. Every time you choose focus over distraction, you increase your mental resilience. Your environment also affects your thinking. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, and the conversations you engage in all influence your mental patterns. If you constantly surround yourself with negativity, fear, and pessimism, those attitudes become easier to adopt. If you expose yourself to encouraging ideas, positive influences, and constructive perspectives, your thinking begins to reflect those inputs. The human mind is incredibly powerful because it constantly searches for evidence to support what it already believes. If you believe life is unfair and hopeless, your mind will focus on examples that reinforce that belief. If you believe challenges can be overcome, your mind will begin noticing opportunities, solutions, and possibilities that support that perspective. The direction of your thoughts determines the direction of your attention, and your attention influences the reality you experience every day. One of the biggest reasons people feel overwhelmed during difficult times is that they spend too much energy focusing on things they cannot control. They worry about what other people think, they stress about the past, they fear uncertain futures, and they become frustrated by circumstances that are completely outside their influence. The result is exhaustion, anxiety, and a feeling of helplessness. When you learn to focus on what you can change, you regain a sense of power and direction. Every challenge contains two categories. The first category includes things you can influence through your actions, decisions, and attitude. The second category includes things that remain outside your control no matter how much you worry about them. Most people mistakenly spend the majority of their time and energy on the second category. They replay old mistakes in their minds. They wish circumstances were different. They become frustrated by the actions of others. They obsess over outcomes that have not even happened yet. Imagine a person preparing for an important job interview. They cannot control the number of applicants. They cannot control the interviewer's personal opinions. They cannot control unexpected events that may occur during the hiring process. However, they can control how well they prepare, how professionally they present themselves, how clearly they communicate, and how much effort they put into the opportunity. Focusing on uncontrollable factors creates stress. Focusing on controllable factors creates confidence and productivity. The same principle applies to nearly every situation in life. During difficult times, people often become trapped in questions that lead nowhere. They ask why certain things happened. They wonder why life feels unfair. They wish circumstances were different. While these thoughts may feel natural, they rarely produce useful results. Instead of asking questions that increase frustration, successful people ask questions that encourage action. They focus on what steps they can take today, rather than what they wish had happened yesterday. The past is one of the most common areas where people waste emotional energy. Everyone has experienced mistakes, failures, disappointments, and regrets. These experiences can teach valuable lessons, but they become destructive when people refuse to move beyond them. No amount of worrying can change what has already happened. No amount of regret can rewrite history. Yet many people continue carrying the weight of past events for years. They allow previous failures to influence current decisions. They remain trapped by memories instead of focusing on opportunities available in the present moment. Focusing on what you can change means accepting that the past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. You can learn from it, but you cannot live there. Every minute spent wishing the past were different is a minute that cannot be invested in creating a better future. Progress begins when you direct your attention toward actions that are available right now. Another major source of unnecessary stress comes from worrying about the future. The future is uncertain by nature. No one can predict every challenge, opportunity, or outcome that lies ahead. Despite this reality, many people spend enormous amounts of time imagining worst-case scenarios. They create problems in their minds before those problems even exist. They become anxious about situations that may never happen. Preparing for the future is valuable. Worrying endlessly about it is not. Preparation involves taking practical steps that improve your chances of success. Worry involves repeatedly thinking about negative possibilities without taking meaningful action. One creates progress. The other creates paralysis. When you focus on what you can change, your attention shifts from fear to preparation. You begin investing your energy in actions that improve your situation instead of thoughts that increase anxiety. The opinions of other people represent another area beyond your control. Many individuals spend years seeking approval from everyone around them. They become afraid of criticism. They avoid opportunities because they worry about judgment. They allow the expectations of others to determine their choices. This creates a life driven by external validation rather than personal purpose. The truth is that no matter what you do, some people will support you and others will criticize you. You cannot control their reactions. You cannot force everyone to understand your decisions. You cannot guarantee universal approval. What you can control is your character, your effort.